For years, if you wanted to train a serious AI model, there was really only one company you called. NVIDIA didn't just make the fastest chips, it built an entire empire around them, and everyone else was left fighting for scraps. But AMD just put a number on the table that is hard to ignore. 432 gigabytes of memory on a single chip, 19.6 terabytes per second of memory bandwidth, up to 40 petaflops of raw AI compute. This is the Instinct MI455X, the flagship of AMD's new MI400 series, and it is built specifically to go head-to-head with NVIDIA's next-generation Vera Rubin platform. AMD isn't just building a chip either. It's building an entire rack-scale AI machine called Helios, stuffed with 72 of these monsters. So is this finally the moment AMD turns the AI chip market into a real two-company fight? Let's get into the numbers.
To understand why this chip is such a big deal, you need to understand what actually limits AI performance today. Modern AI models, especially large language models, are enormous. Before a chip can even start doing math, it has to load billions of parameters into memory close enough to the processor to use them quickly. If a chip doesn't have enough memory, or if that memory can't feed data fast enough, the expensive compute cores sit idle, waiting for information to arrive. This is often called the memory wall, and it has become one of the biggest bottlenecks in AI hardware. That is exactly where AMD is choosing to fight. The MI455X ships with 432 gigabytes of HBM4 memory, which is roughly 50% more capacity than NVIDIA has disclosed for the competing Vera Rubin chip. And that memory is connected through 19.6 terabytes per second of bandwidth. In practical terms, more memory capacity means a single chip can hold larger chunks of a big model without constantly reaching out to other GPUs, which matters enormously for inference on today's largest language models.
The MI455X itself is a genuinely enormous piece of engineering. It's built using a chiplet design, meaning instead of one giant slab of silicon, the chip is assembled from multiple smaller compute and memory controller dies, stacked and connected together, fabricated on a mix of TSMC's 2nm and 3nm processes. Altogether, the package contains around 320 billion transistors. Inside, it uses two large graphics compute dies alongside two memory controller dies, surrounded by 16 HBM4 memory sites. It's built on AMD's CDNA5 architecture, the latest generation of AMD's compute-focused GPU design, and it's rated for up to 40 petaflops of FP4 compute and 20 petaflops of FP8 compute, the low-precision number formats that modern AI training and inference increasingly rely on. This chip is also expected to arrive in a lighter, more standard 8-GPU server configuration called the MI440X, alongside a version tuned for high-precision scientific computing called the MI430X. So the same core architecture is being split across multiple real-world deployment needs, rather than a single one-size-fits-all part.
A single fast chip is only part of the story, and AMD clearly knows it, because NVIDIA's real advantage was never just its chips, it was building entire integrated systems. That is what AMD's Helios rack is meant to answer. A single Helios rack packs 72 MI455X GPUs into a double-wide, fully liquid-cooled cabinet, paired with next-generation AMD EPYC Venice CPUs built on the new Zen 6 architecture. Put together, one rack delivers roughly 31 terabytes of total memory and up to 2.9 exaflops of FP4 compute for AI inference. It's a genuinely massive machine, reportedly weighing close to 7,000 pounds and drawing around 140 kilowatts of power, comparable to the electricity use of a small village. AMD is connecting all of this using its own Infinity fabric, alongside a newer open interconnect called UA-Link, plus Ultra Ethernet for linking multiple racks together, aiming to match the kind of tightly coupled, high-speed communication that NVIDIA's proprietary NVLink and NVSwitch technology has offered for years.
Here's the part of this story that doesn't show up on a spec sheet, and it might matter more than any of the numbers above. For over a decade, NVIDIA's dominance hasn't just come from having faster chips, It's come from CUDA, the software platform that essentially every major AI framework and research lab has been built around. Switching away from CUDA has historically meant rewriting large amounts of code, which is a serious barrier, even when a competitor's hardware looks impressive on paper. AMD's answer is ROC, its own open software stack, which the company has spent years working to make compatible with popular frameworks like PyTorch, so that code written once can increasingly run across different hardware with minimal changes. Progress here has been real, and the open source community has helped push ROC forward faster than AMD alone likely could have. But software maturity is measured in years of real-world deployment, not a single announcement. And this remains the area analysts watch most closely when judging whether AMD's hardware gains actually translate into market share.
Specs are one thing, but committed customers are the real signal of whether a chip matters. AMD is not short on those right now. OpenAI announced a 6 gigawatt supply agreement with AMD, with the first gigawatt of MI450 series capacity beginning deployment in the second half of 2026. Oracle Cloud has separately committed to 50,000 MI450 series GPUs, describing it as the first publicly available AI supercluster built on AMD's Helios racks. These are not small pilot orders. They're the kind of large capital commitments that only happen when a customer believes the hardware and the roadmap behind it are credible at scale. At the same time, it's worth being honest about where things stand today. Analyst estimates still put NVIDIA's share of AI training accelerators above 80%, with AMD holding a much smaller slice, concentrated more in inference workloads where AMD's memory capacity advantage matters most. Winning a handful of massive contracts is a strong start. It is not the same as winning the broader market NVIDIA has controlled for years.
So how does this really stack up against NVIDIA? On paper, the comparison is closer than it has been in years. AMD's MI455X claims an advantage in memory capacity, 432 gigabytes against roughly 288 gigabytes disclosed for Vera Rubin, and a raw FP8 compute figure that appears to lead as well. NVIDIA, for its part, has only disclosed some of Rubin's numbers using its newer NVFP4 format, rather than directly comparable figures, which makes an apples-to-apples comparison genuinely difficult. NVIDIA has also confirmed Rubin has moved into full production, with major cloud providers including AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure named among the first to deploy it, arriving in roughly the same second half of 2026 window as Helios. That overlap alone is notable, because historically, AMD's flagship chips have launched 2 to 4 quarters behind NVIDIA's equivalent generation. For the first time in a while, the two companies are arriving at the starting line at nearly the same moment, even if NVIDIA is very likely to start the race with a significantly larger share of the track already covered. The headline numbers are genuinely impressive, and AMD deserves credit for building a chip that wins on memory capacity and bandwidth against NVIDIA's own next-generation part, not just against NVIDIA's current generation. But the more important story isn't really the spec sheet. It's the fact that AMD has convinced OpenAI and Oracle to put real capital behind multi-gigawatt, tens of thousands of GPU commitments before Helios has even shipped in volume. That kind of customer confidence is much harder to manufacture than a good benchmark. At the same time, NVIDIA isn't standing still. Rubin is arriving in the same window, and CUDA's software advantage doesn't disappear just because AMD's hardware closes the gap. This looks less like AMD suddenly overtaking NVIDIA, and more like the AI accelerator market finally getting its first genuinely competitive second option in years, which on its own would be a meaningful shift after a decade of one company setting all the terms.
So here's what I want to know. Do you think AMD's memory advantage and its massive OpenAI and Oracle deals are enough to actually shift market share away from NVIDIA? Or does CUDA's software lock-in keep NVIDIA firmly in control, no matter how good AMD's silicon gets? Let me know your take in the comments. And if you want more grounded breakdowns of the chips actually shaping the next generation of AI, subscribe, because this rivalry is just getting started.